Welcome to the Business Growth Spotlight, where we shine the light and talk with business leaders from all over the world who share their insights and expertise so we can all grow together. I'm looking forward to talking with my guest today. We're in this space in the city that I was born. So we're bringing you Florida here, my hometown, my home state. So I'm really excited about this conversation and to share this company and this gentleman with all of you. I'm your host, Heidi Schock. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. We're excited for you to be here. Please stick with us through the entire episode as we will be giving you a gift at the end of the show. I am co-founder of HLH Growth Solutions, where we work with businesses to scale their revenue with outside of the box visibility strategies. And that's part of the gift that you'll be getting today. But without delaying any longer, I want to introduce you and welcome my guest, Alejandro Rivas-Micoud with Userlytics Corporation. Welcome, Alejandro, to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Heidi. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to talk with you, and I appreciate your time. So, Alejandro, can you give us a little insight into you, your company, and the role that you play within it?
Sure. So I have been fortunate to be either a founder or a co-founder in a number of ventures over the years in a number of different countries, also Spain, Japan, US. Some of those ventures worked out very well and we had wonderful exits, and some of them were learning experiences. Userlytics was founded in San Francisco in 2009. We moved to Austin in 2015 and then subsequently to Miami in 2018. And Userlytics is a remote user experience testing platform. And I'm the CEO. So I'm the least important person in the company. I just run around and try to guide people, but most of the good work is done by my colleagues.
Yeah, well, I love how you shine the light on them. I'm curious, what brought you from California across the country into Miami? That's a completely different side of our country here.
Yeah, it's a great question. So, um, our first customer was actually the Sydney Opera in Australia, strangely enough, because we were in San Francisco, we were looking for, clients there in 2009. But gradually over time, we expanded all over the globe, and we have now almost uh, business customers in almost 40 countries. So
Mm.
Europe plays a very important part of that. So we have European headquarters in Madrid, Spain, and the connection between San Francisco and Madrid, 9 hours time zone difference. At that time, no direct flights. It was just logistically complicated. So
Mhm.
we came closer in Austin, but it was still complicated. And then finally, Miami, we decided was the perfect complement, if you will, geographically to Madrid, Spain.
Yeah, and I was born in Miami, so I know they have a great international airport there, which makes that travel a lot easier. So
Exactly.
welcome. It's wonderful to have you in my home state. I was born and raised here,
Thank
so
you.
I was excited. I don't meet a ton of people from Florida that in the entrepreneurial and the business space, but I'm meeting more and more with this podcast. So it's a pleasure to have you, like
It's a
exciting to
growing
have you
area.
here. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and the traffic. If you don't know Florida people, like the traffic here is growing, especially in Miami, I can imagine. But what led the start of Userlytics? What led you to start this and to create it?
So I am a firm believer that perhaps the single most important investment, any company, but especially startups and companies looking to scale and to grow, is in the user experience. Um, in my previous background, I had been involved in testing and also in market research. So I was a nuclear test engineer testing nuclear power plants, certain time. And I was also involved in the market research space when I was working in Japan. In the telecom space, we were selling a very undifferentiated product, telephone calls. So user experience is one way to differentiate your product, is a very important way. At the time we founded Userlytics, user experience was something that, there were departments that focused on it within large companies, but they didn't have a lot of power or a lot of visibility, a lot of influence, or a lot of budget. that changed around, I mean, we were pushing for that change, but that really changed around 2015. And for me personally, I just love it when I use a product or service where the user experience is good.
Mhm.
And I hate it when it's bad. And in fact, frequently when it is horrible, and that's unfortunately fairly frequent occurrence. I'm thinking all the time, I got to take some time to just make a video of this experience and share it with the CEO of this company. Because if he had any idea how horrible the experience of starting to use this product or continuing to use this product or calling customer service, whatever the particular experience is, he would be flabbergasted. He just doesn't know, or she,
Right.
you
Mhm.
know. But anyway, so I'm very passionate about user experience optimization.
Yeah, and I love that you created this because I think it's really important. And unfortunately, the leaders sometimes don't know because they're sometimes so far from the user, right? Especially as businesses grow, there's more pieces and people put in place in order to support that user experience or that client, that the leadership gets further and further away from that. And sometimes they're just so busy, they don't, it's not that they don't want to be involved. They get busy with what their role is. So why
Right.
is user experience such a critical component of business growth today, especially in highly competitive digital markets?
Well, if you think about it, if you walk into a restaurant and you don't like the experience, you're already sitting at the table. It's like, I don't really like this, but I'm already here. I'm not going to get up now and just walk away. But in the digital realm, if you visit a website or a mobile app and you don't like it, you're gone in milliseconds.
Yeah.
So the user experience has always been important, but it's particularly important in terms of digital products and services. Um, you know, as you say, the CEOs and the leadership of most companies don't really know a lot of the details of what's going on. And, they're looking at statistics, how many sales they did, how many people churned, et cetera, et cetera. But an investment of half an hour every 2 weeks to just observe the user experience, observe one of their clients or one of their users using their product. There's a growing movement that's called continual discovery or continuous discovery that is based on not just user experience researchers, not just user experience designers, but people in marketing and market research at the C level. Just spend a little bit of time in what are called discovery calls, just watching what people do. Don't
Mhm.
ask them what they think. Don't ask them what they will do. Watch what they do. And that's what we enable, basically.
Yeah. And what about testing? Userlytics pioneered remote user testing early. So how have businesses' attitudes toward usability testing shifted, especially since the pandemic?
Well, when we started, companies had laboratories, so they would do this in a very complex and logistically challenging and expensive manner. So we brought a way to do it very quickly with people anywhere in the world at a very low cost. But the market started growing quickly around 2015. After the pandemic, it exploded, obviously, because in person was not a thing. You had to do it remotely. The growth rates really shot up from that point on. I like to use the analogy of the dentist and the toothbrush. So the dentist, in terms of user experience laboratories, especially for large companies, have always existed. The toothbrush, however, was what we brought to the table when we were founded. Because until then, people would go through life and all of a sudden they'd have a toothache, they'd go to the dentist, which was, like all of a sudden we're having conversion problems. We don't know what's going on here. Let's find out what's going on. They'd go to the laboratory, spend a bunch of money, spend a bunch of time, and then get some insights out of that.
Mm.
What we came up with is a way to, hey, do this on a weekly basis, do this frequently, and you won't have to go to the dentist so often. And it'll be less painful when you do.
Mhm.
That's the idea.
I love it. And I love that you shared about leadership taking time to get to experience what the user is, even if it's once every 2 weeks. You brought me back to when I was it was in the coaching space, but it was really interesting because they actually live called and acted like one of their, like a potential client
Mhm.
calling the rep.
Right.
And it
Right.
was interesting because they called a new rep and the rep didn't really know what they were doing. And I loved that the founder, the CEO of the leader of the community was like, now we know where we need to support him in him getting better, not like tearing him down and making him feel
Right.
bad. It's just, this is great. So how important is it for not only are they supposed to, for them to come in and get to hear and oversee things, but also try it themselves?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's an old thing about management by walking around, which is basically, the CEO walking around. This is back in the days where everybody worked at the office, walking around and just seeing what's going on, and that's called management by walking around. Well, this is kind of something similar, but observing your clients, doing what you want them to do, whether it's to sign up for a service or to use your product or to reuse your product or whatever it is that you have as a challenge, watch how they do it. And all kinds of insights will pour in. And it's important that you, as the senior leader and the senior leadership,
Mhm.
do this, not just a specialized division or specialized department.
So I want to talk about AI, because
Yes.
AI is emerging. It's not even emerging, it's here and it's just evolving. And it seems like every so often we're getting updates. It seems like now every day there's new updates to new things. We see it with ChatGPT, we see it with Claude, we see it with all these AIs that, us quote unquote normal people are using. And there's other AI driven platforms as well that are being used by companies that we may not be aware of. But how is Userlytics leveraging AI and automation to make UX research faster, smarter, or more accessible to companies of all sizes?
Sure. Well, we've just gotten started actually 2 years ago. It was, I think, April actually of 2023 when we launched our first AI product, which was and is a means of just analyzing the videos that we produce. We produce videos of people interacting with user interfaces and trying to do things. And, you know, there's a ton of insights in these videos, but before AI, somebody had to watch these videos. And, each video is maybe 30, 60 minutes. You might have 5 or 10 or 15 of those per study. So it's a lot of time that somebody had to spend and get really interesting insights. But AI automated that into the blink of an eye of just extracting those insights. So that's one of the quick wins, the low hanging fruit, if you will. There's a ton of other things that we're doing with AI at the tactical level, but I also think it's worthwhile to think about how AI is going to change the user interface
Mm,
because, you know, every website, mobile app, digital service out there is inserting either an agent or a chatbot or some AI element. But what is going to work and what is not going to work? That's a big question mark for everybody. So, doing user experience testing is critical because, okay, I have this idea. Let's test it out. Let's put it out there, see, and then repeat and rinse again and do it on and on again iteratively, if that makes
so
sense.
yes, it does completely. So when we talk about the companies that you work with, if a company's listening or a founder or leader is listening right now, and they're like, oh, I think we need to talk more to Alejandro and his team about, learning more about what they do and how they can help us. What types of companies are you working with, would be your client, and who are seeing the greatest ROI from investing in user testing, and what results do they typically experience?
So we work with Fortune 100, Fortune 500, but also with medium-sized companies as well as startups. So it's true that large companies have the resources and the budgets to do continual testing all the time, whereas a startup might be more limited in budget, and so they have enough resources to do one project or two or three a year, although they're very critical. projects. I mean, speaking about the ROI, you can surface a bunch of different analysis of incredible rates of return. I'm talking 500, 800% or more on investments in UX and user experience. If you think of what a company invests in marketing and in other areas, and you think that, investing in just making the UX a little bit better is a fraction of that. It's just a small thing. And if you want to think about impact, okay, right now we're talking over Zoom.
Mhm.
Zoom appeared on the market about 16 years after the first Zoom-like interfaces appeared on the market. There was GoToMeeting, there was WebMax, there was Skype, there was all these different ways to do this. So how come Zoom essentially owns that market today? Why? They came in the market with something that had a slightly better user experience. That's the only reason. It wasn't because of pricing. It wasn't because of advertising. It wasn't because of being first to market. They were 16 years late.
Mhm.
It was the user experience. And like Zoom, there are many, many stories out there.
Yeah, that you make a really good point. So for any of you listening, if you have an idea or you're in already in business and you're in the growth phase, like how do you set yourself apart? So you may think like, oh, there's already this company. Do it. Go to meeting is still there and it was pretty big, right? I think it's Google. Is it Google? Google Meet? Or no,
Uh,
there's Google
no,
Meet.
no, the Google Meet is another one. Yeah.
GoToMeeting is different, but there's Google Meet. And at the end of the day, Zoom is still, when I get a Google Meet, I'm like, why aren't you on Zoom? Zoom is so much easier. It's just perception that I have because you're right. They've created this user experience that has blown every other platform out of the market when it comes to this type of experience of communication, right? And it's just like remember when Google came out, they weren't the first platform, they weren't the first search
Exactly.
engine. But now when you think
Exactly.
engine, you automatically go, did you Google it? Now you automatically say, are we doing a Zoom call? Can you get on a Zoom call? Like it's just been it's just now it's part of our everyday language where we've now, like Q-tip. Q-tip isn't a name. There's different types of things called with it. Q-tip is like more of a brand, but they turned that into the word that people think of. So yeah, I think that's such a great point that you shared. So, can we talk about growth and what you've experienced inside of your business? Because we really I think it would be super helpful for people who are listening. And I would love to learn more about the challenges that you've had during your growth of your business and how have you overcome some of those challenges?
So, in the various businesses that I've been involved with, one aspect that I think tends to get overlooked in terms of growth is working capital. So the typical startup or scale up looks to access venture capital or private equity for financing. If you think of the rates of return that those entities are looking for, they're looking to multiply their money in the case of a VC by 20 or 30x, in the case of a private equity by 3 or 4x. But still, if you went to your bank and you said, I want a loan, and the bank said, okay, but the interest rate is going to be 100% per year, what? That's usury. You'd be shocked.
Mhm.
But that's what they all do, pursuing venture capital and private equity, which, by the way, brings a lot more to the table than just money, but still, it's an expensive financial option. So if you can minimize it in other ways, you should. And one way to do that is by thinking about your working capital. How is my product designed? Can I design it in such a way that maybe I make very little money in these first customers or these initial customers, but they pay up front? If they pay up front, they're financing my business. Even if I lose money, I'm probably paying a rate of cost of capital that's lower than what I would have to pay to any other source.
Mhm.
So working capital can be an absolutely magical way to help finance the business. So that's one thing that I would urge any startup and especially scale up to think about. Think about working capital. Think about your product design from a working capital perspective. The other super important thing is culture.
Mm.
What Peter Drucker said about culture eating strategy for breakfast, I'm a firm believer. I remember after I sold a few telecom firms I had founded, I went to this startup event and there was this successful entrepreneur. He had a company, very quite large company, and he said that he spent 40% of his time on HR related things. And I was shocked. I was, I couldn't believe it. That's incredibly, where do you get the time to do that? But I realized that he was right. If you're going to spend time on anything, that's one of the best ROIs of a leader, of a founder, of a CEO, is to think about company culture. How can I get the best people? But more importantly, how can I get my people become the best people
Mm.
and work together as the best team? And that's all part about building and maintaining and improving the company culture.
Yeah, I've heard that from many people that we've talked to on this podcast. So for you listening, this is definitely a theme running amongst these successful leaders is building a strong internal culture within your company because at the end of the day, the less turnover you're having, the better. And your internal, what's happening on the inside is what you're receiving on the outside. So you also become what you attract, right? So you want to work with these amazing clients, then you have to be creating that type of culture inside of your business first. So I love that. So thank you for just even confirming that even more that that's happening within your structure as well, and that's helped you become successful. Another a question I have for you is how are you? You're pretty agnostic. You help a lot of different companies from what you were sharing. Am I correct? That
Yes, in terms of industries, it's, governmental institutions, nonprofits, B2C, B2B, yeah, all over
okay.
in just, yeah, the vertical space.
So as far as being able to serve a lot of people, which is interesting because you hear a lot from outside influences and people saying like, oh, you need to create your niche first when you're starting, and then you can expand, which is a good way of going because if then you can really get success with one type of industry or one specific niche, and then of course you can help a lot of people, so you expand from there. How have you gotten in front of your clients? What has worked for you as far as visibility and the marketing strategies that you've used, and what hasn't worked on the flip side of that, maybe that you've kind of like released and let go of?
Sure. Well, I mean, in terms of the focus on a niche and, do that one thing well, I, I believe that's very true. But there's many different ways of thinking about
Mm.
a niche. What is a niche? You can think of a niche as being a vertical. We only serve insurance companies. Or you can think of a niche as we only serve user experience researchers
Yeah.
across different verticals. So there's different ways of thinking of what a niche is. But I think it depends upon the industry and the business model and many other factors that influence whether you can and should focus on a specific industry vertical or whether it makes more sense to go. It just depends. In our case, it made more sense to serve all the industries because their needs are all the same,
Right.
the
Yeah.
kinds of people we're selling to are all the same, etc. In terms of gaining visibility and everything, that's a great question because the initial years were very hard for us because we did not know really who to sell to or how to get ourselves in front of these people. And so we made certain assumptions at the beginning that seemed to us no brainers. We
Mhm.
thought, okay, there's this new software development movement called agile software development, and we're enabling quick, rapid user experience testing of software. So it's a no-brainer. We should sell to these folk. Nope, didn't work. Um, okay, what we're doing is kind of similar to market research. It's different because we're not asking people what they think and their opinions. We're watching what people do, but still, let's sell to market researchers. This is a no-brainer for them. Didn't work. Um, and so, designers, let's go to designers. This is a no-brainer. They're designing this stuff. They're going to want to design the right thing. Didn't work. So it took a while before we found, the ICP, the ideal customer profile, which in our case are user experience researchers and user experience designers, and a little bit also of other areas like marketing. But it really took a while before we figured that out. Once we figured that out, then getting our name out there, then that's this kind of standard marketing, and there's different digital marketing techniques and things. But I think the most important thing was figuring that out. Once we figured that out, the rest was just execution.
You make so many good points there. One about the niche, because many times people can think, oh, I have to serve a certain target market. I have to really drill that down. And that's not necessarily true. It could be you're drilling down the service that you provide that people need. So really identifying the pain points and who has that, and that you solve, the solution that you provide, and who has that pain point. So that was fantastic and a great reminder. And also, I love that you shared that it took you time. A lot of companies, they think, oh, it didn't work one time. You know what? My product isn't working. That's not necessarily true, and most likely
Right.
not true. As long as you know that pain point exists, as long as you know that you have a really good solution that you can solve that problem, then, and you know there's people out there, it's just a matter of finding out who they are. And then are you going to get in front of them? And sometimes the way other companies target markets, you get in front of them doesn't mean that you can get in front of them the same way. Sometimes it's events, sometimes it's podcasts, sometimes it's networking events, right? Getting in front of that. Sometimes it's advertising. Sometimes it's, just really picking up, smiling and dialing, like the old school way. Sometimes that's a slower way, but sometimes that's the way of doing it too. And maybe a combination of all of them. So I appreciate that you shared all of that, and you were honest and open and transparent that it was a challenge at the beginning to figure out where you
Well,
were going. Yeah, because
absolutely. And
it's
and and
oh,
and and in that sense, I think what Bill Gates said about technology, where he said that people overestimate its impact in the short term and underestimate it in the long term. I think that's very applicable to your efforts to build up your company. You overestimate how easy it'll be in the short term, but you underestimate the impact it will have over the long term.
that was so good. And Alejandro, that's so good. Okay, so next question for you is what's next for your company? What's next for, Userlytics, and what are your big goals for 2025?
Sure. So 2025 started out very strongly, but with everything that's going on with this tariffs and everything else, there is a certain amount of uncertainty. But so far, things, I'll keep my fingers crossed, but things are going good so far. Um, our biggest the biggest thing that really excites us is AI, which I think is probably true of everybody out there. There's just so many ways we can leverage AI, and so many ways AI is going to be able to increase the value of what we deliver to our clients, go to new types of clients, and a million other things. So that's something that we're very excited about. The other area that is uh, also very interesting is accessibility testing. Um, there are 1.5 billion people on planet Earth that have some kind of accessibility issue. And in a sense, that's a user experience issue. It's a user experience challenge. Using services like ours to enable to pinpoint accessibility issues and help our clients improve the accessibility of their products is a big challenge. It's not a technically easy one, but we are very enthusiastic about the possibilities of AI enabling that in ways that could not be done before. So that's something that we're looking at also.
I love it. A question for you is about this is a fun one. If we could give you a magic wand and you literally could go poof on one challenge or one issue that you're dealing with right now inside of Userlytics, and you can take it away to reach your goals quicker or whatever that looks like for you, what would that be and why?
So one of the areas that we're looking at with AI, but it's more of a medium term project, is to apply machine learning to all the tens of thousands of videos that we've generated over time, thus enable us to provide a service to our clients where the client shows our interface, this is what I have. And our interface says, based on everything I've seen in the past, you might want to consider this, but if you like, we can validate that with some testing and so on and so forth. So that would be, to get from where we are to there, that would be a magic wand type of thing.
Awesome. So, last question for you. What, if we could bring you back and revisit this conversation in a year from now, Alejandro, what would success look like for you in Userlytics in 12 months?
So in 12 months, we will be larger. We've been growing quite quickly. So hopefully that will continue. Our product roadmap will be hopefully very far advanced because we're trying to accelerate that right now. And it will continue to be one of the things I'm most proud about is that our employees really love working here. And occasionally, we get a client who reaches out to us and says, I had the most amazing interaction with such and such a person, and she was wonderful, or he was wonderful. It's just incredible. And that really makes our day, or makes my day. And
You're getting
I
that
think it
user
makes all of our
experience
days.
brought back to you.
Exactly.
Your
Exactly.
Userlytics is working because they're coming back to you and sharing how the great experience that they're having. Yeah,
Exactly.
I love it. So for those of you, those who are listening, Alejandro, how can and they want to connect and learn more about you and Userlytics, how can they reach out to you and connect?
Sure. Well, I mean, if they reach out to Userlytics, www.userlytics.com, they can set up a call with any one of my colleagues who can go through and help them in whatever their user experience goals are. As far as reaching out to myself, I have a profile on LinkedIn, and happy to uh, engage with any of your listeners who's interested.
So make sure, for those of you listening, that you reach out to Alejandro. You can reach out to him on LinkedIn. Also go to userlytics.com. We will have all of his accessible links and how to contact his contact information, as well as his bio inside of the show notes. So make sure if you're not driving that you go there and check it out. If you're driving, come back and check it out later. If you're watching us on YouTube and you're seeing Alejandro and I right now, please hit the subscribe button. This allows us to share my amazing guests like Alejandro with more people and business owners in the world, leaders, founders, CEOs who want to grow their business by learning from the experience of my incredible guests like you've seen today with Alejandro. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, such as Apple, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and you can leave a review, please do, because that really supports us. This is my beg. This is my ask. This allows us to reach more people and let them hear the expertise and learn from Alejandro and our guests on the Business Growth Spotlight. And I believe it's up to us to share this expertise, this wisdom with the rest of the world and those who are looking to grow a business so we can all grow together. That is my goal of the podcast. If you have any questions for Alejandro, please reach out to him. Again, go to the show notes, grab his links, but you can go to userlytics.com, find him on LinkedIn, reach out to us, and we will direct you to him. I promised y'all a gift, and here it comes. If you are struggling or challenged with your visibility and you're finding that you're doing all the things that you want to be doing organically, but it's just not getting you where you want to go, then go grab our Spotlight to Scale blueprint. You can go to spotlighttoscale.com/blueprint and grab it for free. But again, I want you to make sure you reach out to Alejandro. Alejandro, thank you so much for your time today. This has been such a pleasure.
Thank you, Heidi.
Is there anything that you want to share before we wrap that I didn't get to ask you or we didn't touch on?
No, I think you covered all the bases. If there's one thing that I would hope that your audience took away is that investing in user experience doesn't have to be with us, but just investing in user experience, that's super important, and you'll help make the world a more user-friendly place.
Absolutely. People want to know you care. People are buying yes, they want the product, they want the solution, but they also want to buy from companies that know that they care. And when you're investing in user experience, you're showing that you care about the entire process. You're not just caring about that sale or that money on the back end. So couldn't agree with you more, Alejandro. Thank you for sharing your wisdom today with us. Thank you for
Thank you.
being here. And for all of you listening, make sure again that you go connect with Alejandro and go to userlytics.com. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Business Growth Spotlight. We'll talk to you soon.